My name is Katerina Guillermo, and I am one of IPCNY's remote artists in residence for Lonely Hearts New Prints 2021 summer. I am located in Kansas City, Missouri, originally born in Miami, Florida. When I first got accepted into the show, I was originally starting off doing pieces that were based off of kind of this experimentation of the self, like the process of identity, and how identity was kind of being morphed through what was being seen on the internet. And especially during quarantine, how uh, people were less inclined to follow along with these patriarchal ideals since we were all sort of isolated inside. People were almost kind of experimenting what it meant to be oneself, realizing that there were multiple facets of the other person and realizing that they were more than this two-dimensional form masking themselves in society and realizing that they are more fleshed out. Me also being one of them, discovering my gender fluidity more. Once I kind of went into this process of art making, I had conceived this idea of making a full-on installation with diagrams of what the installation would look like and with wallpaper designs, some of the prints that would be involved in it. However, once the end of 2021 came upon us, I started having to go through some personal issues that kind of made me stop thinking so much of myself and thinking so much of what has already happened to me, if better to say, with the circumstances of COVID being a lot longer than any of us had suspected. It made me have to sit with myself and really think about all the things in my past that have affected me to where I am right now. I started going back into the relationships that I had gone through, whether they were very serious or not, and how they've sort of shaped me to be the person that I am now, realizing how my idea of intimacy and relationships started getting warped, especially towards my early 20s and then heading in towards now my 30s. Looking back through a lot of my old sketches from when I was in college, especially like around freshman and sophomore year, I started realizing there was this sort of kind of underlying theme of wanting closeness, and then sort of this like harsh like attack on my sexuality where I was going for very overt sexual themes, kind of like using this as kind of like a buffer for what was really going on within me. When I started thinking about each of the individual relationships that I was going through, I thought about almost like wanting to write letters to these people that have affected my life, both on a romantic level and also a platonic friendship level that still has that sort of deep intensity. I started thinking about what I would be writing to these people now, whether it be a good things to say, sort of melancholic things, or even just words that I have yet to say to somebody because I was at the time too afraid to say anything because I hadn't come to terms with myself. I just got this great idea of like making art just based off of these letters that I was doing. And so I went back into that form of monotyping. So monotyping is a sort of print style which doesn't follow any sort of strict print ideals where, for to say, you know, if you were to carve out a picture like I was before with this very much like depicted straight on pictures, instead these are more of like amalgamations of like memories and feelings. And so how I did this in my apartment, I had found a way, because I don't have access to a press, at least nearby, that is open. I had learned how to do monoprints from home. So I was able to use these gel plates and paint on top of the gel plates with watercolor, and then use a brayer to make these sort of like abstract painted shapes. And then on top of those painted shapes, I layered upon another layer of what could be like any other drawing medium, like marker. Sometimes it would be post-it notes, sometimes pen. And then on top of that would be some of the segments of that letters that I had written to particular people on top of it. So even though it might not have the traditional layering methods that usual printmaking has, the idea of layering sort of like these different feelings one on top of the other will in turn just accumulate into sort of like a fully formed art piece that just encapsulate, you know, these feelings that I have towards these particular people. I hope that by doing these art pieces, I kind of come to terms with this past self that in recent years I felt like I regretted, and just sort of forgive myself. When it comes to art with me, it's very much a therapeutic thing. I make art to kind of like process whatever I'm going through at the moment. It will accumulate into this grand finished sort of collection of pieces that I can eventually show. Even within this sort of like accumulation of pieces, I am collecting both the sketches, the extra writings for all the letters that I was doing, even the sketches of what would be the possible prints, even the misprints I want to show, because I want when people look at the entirety of what it is the finished pieces to see what it took to get there, for people to sort of realize like the process that it goes into seeing the final works that you see in front of you. And so yeah, that is what I'm currently working on. I want to thank again everybody who has supported me while I was going through this entire art piece. And yes, thank you.